Welcome this morning, heart to heart, face to place. And as we just check out with our main man on the video there, do we have our scene on the screen? Can we put our scene on the screen? There we go, you can see the clouds moving over the hills. You're actually looking at the at Littleton Harbour, and in the distance there is the Pacific Ocean. It's quite a quiet morning. That's probably because there's not a truck roared past just yet, but it is a naturally quiet morning. And while we're just contemplating this picture, let's begin to make the connection with all the other people that are on this call. Feel your heart reaching out to others, reaching around the globe. As we do this, we're softening into our heart. You know, probably a lot of you have had a very busy day and moving around, rushing around, doing whatever one does for work. Or maybe we've been wise enough just to have a moment of contemplation here and there, like a remembering to commune and to connect inside, and start to experience the world of form, which then includes mental and emotional movement. To me, all that's wrapped in our human flesh. But begin to connect the world of form with the world of emptiness, that finer, placeless place. Now, as we begin to really do this, really bring this about, what I'm going to suggest to you is our human experience begins to open up. It begins to open up to the pure psyche, or the pure earth psyche, that's untouched by any mental, emotional projection on the surface. We begin to be touched by the earth spirit itself. This finer place that you're seeing, I believe you still are seeing on your screen, that you see in the clouds and in the trees and in the birds and in the earth, in the ocean. You begin to have a sense that there's something finer behind, within the earth itself, this movement, this manifestation. So then I'm going to ask you just to close your eyes. So this is everyone around the world just closing our eyes for a moment. And as we do that, our man of the moment is going to close the window because it's icy cold coming in. And really feel the resonance of the field of our connection building up. And really just like gathering with your friends in some coffee shop, on a street corner, at work, in your home, this is what we're doing right now. We're gathering at home. We're gathering at the home of our heart. We're gathering at the home of our heart, the heart of this earth, the heart of the universe. Now I'm saying to you that this is very empowering. Empowering that we begin to enter greater stillness. And as we enter greater stillness, the power of nothing, the power of no thing, begins to be our immediate experience. And it's awesome power, awesome, gentled, real, tangibly real. The more we rest in it, the deeper we sink and immerse ourselves as beings into it. And everything in our self, this human self, begins to rest. I'm trusting now that I'm online, and so we can all take a breath and open our eyes. You might recognize this. You need a rest from yourself. Do you know that? You literally need a rest from yourself. I mean, you could say, if you want to say, you need a rest from every other self, but seeing as on the deepest level, every self is yourself, you need a rest from yourself. Because if you don't get a rest from yourself is going to arrest you. Do you know what I mean? It's literally up come the handcuffs, and you start to believe in the self that's being developed. And this self is being developed, the self of the mind, the self of feeling, the self of psychology, the self that's wrapped up in this human flesh, and you know, even the biology of this self body is under reconstruction, deconstruction. De and reconstruction, consistently we know about this. But we don't often listen to the knowledge that everything in the self is deconstructing and reconstructing. And the power of the consciousness that's listening to these words now is that's creating it, dissolving it, reconstructing it, or recreating it. Every moment is really this kind of moment. You know, God isn't something that's static and sits around having as much caffeine as possible each morning. I mean, some gods are. I know a few gods like that. You probably do too. You could be one of them. But God is dynamic. Dynamic without an end. And that the dynamism comes from that silence that we've just entered. That the silence and the depth is actually more alive than the psyche of the earth or the universe. It's just that it's not come into form as yet. A being that begins to fall in love with God or with real self, a being that begins to take on, if you like, you could say the challenge, that it can be challenging, take on the love of loving this self, this self that seems to be immersed in want, need and history. although that's just a simple program that runs the body as a projection of the consciousness. That's the I in this body, the I as you and I, and everyone in this room, everyone in this room. That's a program that runs until this consciousness is literally done with that program. It's literally done with the program. Now I'm going to suggest to you, this is where we're heading on this hour. We're all sitting here because we're done with that program. And it's funny, you know, there's a couple of smiles in the room. I don't know about this room, but we're done with the program. We're done with the program, the continual running of the same self-program. We're yearning and calling for something fresh, new, alive. And out of all the previous programs that run through this body, we began to know ourselves so much better. And we began to have a self-knowledge that precedes this self. In simply having life, you and I have began to understand, and when I say this I mean began to understand that you'll never completely understand because it's infinite, this I that's listening to these words. We began to understand that there's a power of knowing. We've just been there, or we're still sitting there right now, and we're developing the ability to be in the beingness place of self-knowledge and tranquility, and let's say the beyond place. But we're developing the ability to be the beyond, that's never had any form or any experience in the worlds of experience, to be that with intelligence, so without any downgrading, here in this moment of life, this moment, this one and only moment, a true form. So we do have this amazing capacity to know many things in this one knowing. Do you follow what I'm saying? It's like a ray of light. You see a ray of light, but the beam touches everything. It touches all different shapes, whether they're distant or near. And that's rather a description of conscious awareness. That the beam of light that I am is touching everything, no matter what shape, what colour, what experience. It's touching everything, whether far or near. It's touching everything. And it has the capacity to know the whole as one knowledge. It's amazing when we look at these things, because we go, well, I do. I mean, I haven't even got a cup of coffee yet, and I'm knowing these things. That I know of many things just sitting in this moment, and yet I have one knowledge amongst those many things. And my knowledge evolved as consciousness in this body here, and yet beyond this body, is that as I remain in this one knowledge, it pulls together all the knowledge that I have in self-experience. It's truly amazing. And something begins to ignite in me there, where I know where this connects with this, where the distant connects with the immediate, where the high connects with the low, where the middle connects with another place over here. And I can see it all in a moment. And my evolving intelligence and the supreme being that I am inside in the deep, when I say I am speaking about everyone that's listening, well, it pulls it all together. Suddenly the real knowledge of I is pulling together both the near and the far of my experience. It brings it all together. And somehow this is the great mystery. The earth sings because of that. The universe sings because of that. Because I can look at a star, for instance, or I can look just out there and just simply watch these clouds caressing the brow of these hills. And it says so much for me. Poets might put that into words. Painters might put that on canvas. It's already on the canvas alive. But it opens something up within me, this me that's listening. Now here we go. Depending where this me that's listening is, as it were, seated in its eye center, that depending on that, evolution is really happening, and I'm evolving consciousness, and the myriads of forms in self are all drawn to the truth that I truly am, that transcends all this experience, but now is including it. And as it transcends but includes, it brings the more from the deep, and from the deep transforms the experience into higher experience. Nothing is excluded in this totality of experience of all life. What is happening is consciousness then is evolving its self-experience. First off, it starts off evolving its me self-experience, this person. And then it's me's self-experience, its person, and people that it's getting familiar with, its friends, its families. We all go through that. But eventually something far greater begins to awaken. I don't know if you can hear its roar. Yeah. And feel its gentleness, but its power. The self, the one and only self itself, that is already awake, is awaking here and now, as you, as I, as we. I call this evolution. It's literally evolution. It's a revolution of evolution, not a revolution of fight and kill, but a revolution of purposeful self-transformation, transforming the self on many, many different levels, mental, emotional. We turn into more and more creative beings connected with the deep core of our real self. And it begins to include, in our own experience as human beings, but as conscious beings with consciousness, begins to include everything that our light touched, both near and distant, but it brings it to a fine point of experience. And I'm suggesting to you, all of us here are being drawn to that fine point. It's a very fine point. And that's why sometimes you might recognize this. That fine point is agonizing. A few more smiles in the room. It's agonizing. Or it can be agonizing. No, look, let's be clear about it. It's agonizing, okay? There's another word that comes from that. Antagonizing comes from that. Also, in that we're so used to having experience that we've not related to in such a holistic experience before. You know, our experiences included everything, but it didn't allow both the near and far to come right here. We very practice at keeping the far, far, because otherwise why would it be far? It's far because we want it to be as far away as possible. That's why. And we cherish the near. And so we've been working very clear to keep only the near and the far, far. You know what I mean? Don't worry, I'm not going to go do, re, mi or anything like that, although that's the universal rhythm. Yeah? When we're beginning to give all that up, both near and far begin to be our direct experience and inclusion of our whole life. To me, this is the point of experience that most of these people, all of you watching this, are at. You're wanting to know both the near and the far. You're wanting to know both the light and the shadow in self. You're wanting to bring it all together to self, infinite knowledge. For real integrated experience into the body as the pure consciousness that's creating all this. And what's more, you're wanting to do that with others. Of course, that's awakening a lot of our subconscious habits, if not all of them are called to awakening. It's a bit of a trip, you might see, that as you begin to awaken, the glory and the light that you once used to experience turns into dust and debris. I don't know if you noticed that. Did you want to watch this today? But it does, in that, as we begin to awaken, we draw the far nearer to us. And we transform the near far quicker than we've ever done before. We make room for a total transformation of being human. We begin to touch far more delicate places in each other than we'd ever dared to do before now. We awaken a delicacy in us that actually we begin to discover is much needed, although painful at times, disturbing to self at times. We awaken a delicacy that without its awakening, we can't taste the fullness of what we're actually involved in. A universal expression and exploration of God as consciousness and form, as our immediate experience. I don't know if you picked that up, but that was excitement. You know, the excitement of what we're really involving in as our own self. This is really what it's about. Right now, for instance, as we really pulled to the vibration of what is being spoken, we're also pulled to come into the deep of our real self. Acknowledgement of real knowledge. I know this is an acknowledgement of real knowledge. And knowing everything that I've just said on whatever levels which we're going to look at, you're knowing. You're also knowing this other knowledge, this real knowledge, which is no knowledge whatsoever. In other words, it's unknowable knowledge. And it's that unknowable knowledge that is the very ground of our being. And yet that unknowable knowledge, we do know, we know. We are knowingness. Then here, we begin to know from that knowingness and evolve that knowingness. It comes as excitement, it comes as adventure, it comes as embracing another, it comes as greater ideas, it comes as greater possibilities. It can come as healing experiences of parts of self that were so far away that are now being drawn near. In short, we're amazing caretakers, taking care of all the many parts of human self from an ever finer place of real consciousness. This is my way of expressing this this morning to you. And just glance out the window and see how still it all is and silent. And the ocean very still. And the clouds just gently drifting away. Everything is in its place. So when the far comes near, that's its place. Its place is to displace where it came from and bring it on home. For recognition, self-transformation, evolution of consciousness, a greater self-worth embodiment, literally learning to love that self-experience in myself, in the one and only self appearing as all humanity, and an enlivening my real experience of this life by truly beginning to commune in the deep as the real, and and give function to that real as my engagement of life. Amazing things can happen as we begin to embrace a whole life, and we begin to practice a living of conscious awareness in each and every movement that we make. We begin to know and refine our human experience and enlighten it. Hello, Andrew, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Bernie, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yep. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope one of those fits.
Yeah, it's good evening. Really enjoying your talks, and really during the last week I've really been experiencing what you were talking about last week in the heart-to-heart, face-to-face connection. I'm finding that in being around women and in the attraction to women that I'm experiencing that heart-to-heart connection, and experiencing that she's that oneness self of the cosmos that comes true, and feeling the heart's longing to give itself to that, and also seeing that the heart's longing to give itself to that on the outside, but it's actually the same as that. It is that it's longing for.
Yeah. Would you like to just add a little bit more to that? Then I'd love to share some more reflection with you. What is your experience of what you're speaking of at the moment?
It's like when I close my eyes, I feel it's like a flow of space, or it's like you're looking out into the cosmos, and that's flowing. So like experiencing that being around women that I'm seeing or feeling that she's the flow of the cosmos, or the flow of the universe, that like
the body of it.
Yeah.
She is the body of it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a little. What can I put this? I'll give you a little ditty. Do you know the word ditty?
Yeah.
Well, I'll give a little ditty is, I'm just going to mention something. It's a little ditty, just a little piece. And we're all going to see if we recognize this. Okay? If you look at a woman,
Yeah.
I'm assuming this can be a man. From where I'm speaking of at the moment, we're just talking about consciousness looking at a woman. It can be a man or a woman looking at. But if you look at a woman, the moment you look at her, what we think we're looking at on our closest level, we're looking at a woman and her body and who we believe she is, whatever she's displaying, right? Do you follow that? So we're looking at her. But what you're really looking at is a bigger woman, and that bigger woman is the one that you mentioned. You could say the embodiment of the entire cosmos. So the moment you look at a woman, and let's extend that a little bit more, the moment you look out at a scene like this here, and you'll have similar where you live, you look out at nature, that woman. The moment you look at that woman, any woman, you're about to take on a great deal of energy. You're about to take on a great deal of form. Do you see what I mean? You're about to take on work. You're about to take on something that will require more of yourself than how yourself is currently developed. So the moment you look at a woman, you're being asked to develop yourself to take on the bigger woman. Are you following this?
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what is happening. So if there's a woman on a bus sitting next to you, and no matter how she looks, and you look at her, she's an indication that there's experience heading your way pretty fast. All right? She's an indication that she's going to give you a few patterns in the human psyche for you to meditate on and transform and reshape. And basically, she doesn't want it back, those shapes, until they've been changed a little, until there's been enough separate energy taken out of it, and then she'd like it back, please. You know, she wants brand new sparkling clothes back, and nothing with any rips and tears in it. She wants you to mend the rips and tears, and then give that energy back transformed. And then she does the rest of the work. So she does the work of collecting what she believes you need. And then she gives it you right on your lap. And then, well, you're left with meditating that to a different level, which is definitely going to change yourself and the way and who you believe you are, and what mind is for, and what the heart is for, and what the legs are for, and what the mouth is for, and what life is for. Do you see what I'm saying? So we're looking at an entirely different perspective, because what I'm endeavouring to put across here is that the moment we become a little awakened, we are taking more of that woman on. The woman of the earth, the woman of experience, the woman of the cosmos. We're embracing her more. We're embracing her like this. She might have a little waist. Eventually, her waist is going to be a bit bigger as we're taking more of her on. Now, this is just another way of saying to you or sharing to you what is actually happening here. All form is being made conscious as one self in all its nearness and distantness. It's being made conscious by the eye that's listening to these words, that is not a gender. And yet, here can come as a gendered man, woman, as a masculine, feminine being, moving into a gender of man and woman. So your life is that. You could say your life is the woman that you're taking on. Your creativity is the woman you're taking on. Every time you meet someone, you're taking something on. That's a good conversation. That's an amazing conversation. And depending on where we're experiencing that from, is it the core of our heart, or are we just keeping it as far away as possible? In other words, we're contracting self. Then you get to know yourself, whether you're contracting and keeping everything far, or whether you're opening and really calling to embrace the entire universe of experience, no matter whether it's near or far. You want to know everything from your God center. That will change yourself.
Yeah, very good.
Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, yeah, and like, I think the deepening in the awareness of that, I think part of that is coming from part 5 of the form, like the awareness of her as the cosmic self
Yes.
coming through from deepening it in part 5 of the form.
Isn't that powerful?
Yeah,
I don't know if you can see me right now.
yeah, yeah.
That's so powerful, because that's the crown of life. They're coming all the way down, and what it contains, of course, what it contains is all that could ever possibly be, and all that will ever possibly become. And then all that could ever possibly be, and all that will ever possibly become, begins to meet what is. Isn't that amazing? It begins to meet what is. And that's where the three meet, as it were. The trinity of consciousness and awareness meeting, and from that, new life comes. Forms change, experiences change, men change, women change, planets change, frequencies change. Everything is moving on, evolving and taking another shape. There's nothing that is here that will ever remain in the same shape, including your body. That truly is amazing. And in the changing of shape, through the connection of what we just spoke of, new consciousness begins to arise and intelligently and completely and immediately know itself, and out of that self-knowledge comes new form. And to allow that to take place, and to really practice the opening to whatever takes place. Although in yourself it can be very uncomfortable, but in the deep you know something really real is about to give birth. You're literally becoming an alchemist, a being that brings all the worlds from the finest place to the most dense place alive as one's real self. And for that to speak to each other, for that as each other to speak, is evolution. But truly amazing.
Beautiful.
Thank you for calling, Andrew.
Thank you, Bernie. Thank you for sharing that.
Have a beautiful evening.
Looking forward to seeing you.
Do we have anyone else on the line, Alistair? Who else is on the line? We have Roberta, do we? Who's up?
We'll just ask people to call in again. Oh,
okay.
We've got Jan coming in right now on video.
Okay, so we have Jan from the Netherlands, I believe.
Who's that?
Here he comes.
Okay.
Hi, Jan.
Okay, so we have Jan from
Hi there.
the Netherlands.
Hi, Alistair.
Yes, we're here.
Okay. Winnie, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I see you there.
And we can see you. You're
Hello.
in Hawaii, right?
Yeah. Aloha to you all. You know, it's summer here. Bernie, my question is this. By the way of things, I had to fire my cleaning lady who kept my house very clean for 10 years. So today, for the first time in 10 years, I cleaned my own house. And since I know you're a quite keen cleaner yourself, could you talk something about the significance of a man having to clean his own house?
Yeah. Well, the point is, there's never a lady around that will be able to completely clean you, clean your psyche. Man must clean his own psyche, but through the mirror of life. Okay, through the mirror of life, he can clean his own psyche. Most men, until they have a greater love of God or truth, and a love of the true nature of the feminine, they won't dare to clean, because it will cost them too much of what they cherish in themselves. Do you see what I mean? And so, to me, the moment you started to speak that you're doing your own cleaning, well, that's appropriate, right?
Yeah.
But in doing one's own cleaning, you'll be taking on more form. So there will be more. There will be more for you to meditate. There'll be more for you to embrace. There'll be more for you to be true to the core of your being, to whatever you engage in life. You're being asked to be. You're being asked to belong to another place entirely. Therefore, you have to keep yourself cleaner. That doesn't mean that another woman will not come along and wash your socks. More than likely, another woman will come. More than likely. But on the fine level we're speaking of, it's about taking self-responsibility and enabling your true light to be your one and only function in your gift of the play of life. It's a big moment. I mean, I saw a couple of guys in this room, they gulped when you said that, you know? So that's what it is. It's where you've come. There you heard it, that little ting, the clash of glass. Is where you've come to be more transparent in your life to yourself and to other than ever before.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I drink to that.
Okay, cheers then.
That's what that's about.
Thank you, Bernie.
We'll see you very shortly.
Yeah, we'll do so.
Okay.
Cheerio.
Bye. Thank you for calling in, Jan.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Much love to you.
Thank you.
I'd like to share. Some of you maybe know what did happen to my mother about 20 days ago. Mm-hmm. She attempted suicide and she went into coma state, and it's been a great journey for me and for us, actually. The experience has been like something really being a kind of director of an orchestra, using this body to harmonize all parts that we're playing, outside and inside, so that things could really be lifted up to a different place. And even though it sounds amazing, it is amazing, but no more than 2 weeks later, she took a flight with me, and she's with me here in Barcelona.
Right.
And she even started to look at you, Bernie, the video. And it just, I think I was really witnessing what does it mean, transforming forms. And and learning to trust this power that really can transform thoughts.
Essential.
And I definitely went through moments where I was losing this connection, when I was kind of giving up.
It felt that way.
Yeah, not because at some level I was in peace with any kind of evolution, but I knew that something greater wanted to take form. And somehow I knew that she wanted to experience something different, so that I really somehow gave all my heart and all my hands to make it happen. And it was just amazing also to look how really systems work, like especially the systems that should take care of our health, and actually they just do the opposite. They really create a cage where they put people, and there's no way, there's no exit when you have somehow a kind of name of diagnosis. There's just no way out. No hope, actually.
But then there is, because look what's happening here.
Yeah, definitely.
Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. And every morning I share with her the form, and even though it's like, she say yes. She just say yes, and even though she looks pretty far away on the outside, I really perceive that something in her is ready for something.
Yes, that's because you're also saying yes. Your yes is now acknowledged in her yes. We have to say yes about this. Let's just look at this to what it means to all of us, shall we?
Yes, sure.
Yes. It's rather like how we began this conversation today. In that, what we all do as human beings, we look at each other as form. We immediately look at each other as mental, emotional, physical, formed experience. So the moment we look at each other, we're knowing each other through history of body, mind, emotion, and what that experience means to us as a separate entity. Do you follow that? And we have a very strange culture on this planet. It's called narcissism. Narcissism? When we're narcissistic, which means we love ourselves more than we love the source from which we all come. And we create, as it were, or bring into the world children, and then we pass our separation down to the child. We begin to make the child familiar with the body-mind aspects of mother and father. We begin to do that. We begin to give them patterns concerning experiences as men and women, experiences loaded with mental, emotional pressure, all passed down from generation after generation. The only thing that should get passed down in our bodies is the DNA code, which within the DNA code is the universal code of life. Amongst the DNA of our biology, of this instrument here, within the DNA is the DNA of the entire universe. And we kind of altered that by infusing our children with identity, with images, with images of our own likes and dislikes. None of us seem to be able to help this, but this is what takes place. So then we start to go about the world and about our relationships from a code of history and needing, wanting and needing experiences that are fixed to our familiar sense of identities. You following this? Like passed down from one generation to another. When we begin to awaken, we awaken to our original nature. We awaken to our original power. We begin to have a direct experience of a profounder, more reality. You know, it's like, that's all we can speak about. It's like we know, well, there's more than what I'm currently experiencing. And sometimes we turn to our parents as children and we say, Mum, Dad, there's more than just this. Do you see what I mean? So just briefly going through this. So then when we really begin to awaken, as you are and as people are here that are listening to this, literally the DNA code is beginning to be in line with the universal codes. They're literally beginning to be in alignment with a code that maybe science is already discovering it. I'm just going to point the way, then I'm going to quickly move away from it. It's within the photon energy that science is beginning to pick up, which directly relates to the genetic molecular structure of our body-mind identities, the DNA system. So we begin to touch on something so much finer than what we're used to. And from that moment I call that alchemy. We're beginning to have fingers of alchemy. We're beginning to have eyes of alchemy. We're beginning to have toes of alchemy. We're beginning to have breath and words of alchemy. Most of us don't know that we're beginning to be alchemists, but people begin to pick up in our lives the alchemy of our new chemistry that's actually beginning to take place. Do you see what I'm saying? So we're actually all becoming alchemists, but most of us are still front mind orientated. So we're still believing in our front mind, and yet we know that's not it anymore. We've gone deeper. So alchemy will take place no matter what you do. It will take place. It's like a thin layer between the new you, alchemy, and the old you. So alchemy is happening whether you know it or not. But for you to be conscious that you are the alchemist is you being what you first are. A beautiful, wonderful, supreme being of such innocence and heartfelt creativity, alive universally already. That's the alchemy that's been going on in you. So although there would have been things happening on the surface for you regarding, and the surface can be experienced as being extremely deep, of course, regarding what's taking place for you in your relationship to your mother, alchemy, chemistry was always on offer between the two of you as you learn to transform, first extract the program between the two of you and transform it, rather than keep passing it backwards and forwards like a tennis match, you know. Rather than do that, you know, oh, hold on a minute, this program's not strong enough. Mum, Dad, we need to make this program stronger. So you pass it on to them and they get hold of it and they make it stronger. This has been my experience just over the past 24 hours actually. And then when the child has got the pattern really back to being stronger and made it stronger, then the child sends the pattern back over to the parents. And then we keep doing, then we spread it out to a few more people, like 8 billion people on the planet. And we keep exchanging that same old pattern. What you're in the process of is giving that one up. You're discovering alchemy has been taking place in the unseen. Do you see? It's wonderful to begin to truly, wow, well, there's so much more happening than what I experience in sense perception that affects sense perception. I, we, mum, dad. There's so much more than just body-mind entities with a history, with fears and doubts and hopes and needs and dreams and nightmares. We are the very alchemists. We are the very source. We make up the source in our beingness. Suddenly life begins to go, wow. Do you see what I mean? You begin to see how it's in every cell of all the plants, every cell of the ocean, every cell of the breath, the sky, the earth, all things. This very alchemy is in all things. We're learning the ability to transform all things in the light of our pure conscious awareness. Amazing. You could call it healing, or simply reality is beginning to burn brighter. And in that way we give birth to new parents. We give birth to the new child. We give birth to each other. You can give birth to the people on this call. Right now you can give birth to these people. As these people giving birth to you. We give birth to each other from where we relate. Amazing stuff.
I just want to take the chance to really thank all the sisters and brothers that I know that in these days accompany me with their love. I really know. I felt them every day.
Yeah, that's the field we experience. It's like we experience it in calls and connected conversations like this. But what if we begin to understand, truly understand, and become consciously aware that there never has been a moment of disconnection. Never. Never has been a moment of disconnection from Source. Never has been a moment of disconnection with each other. Never ever will there ever be. We are eternally together as one, moving as many. Isn't that amazing? And we're opening up the lines, you know. Just have to say so. Telecom New Zealand, if you're listening, clear my lines, please. They need clearing, just in case they're listening, you know. It's probably gone down and they're on there. Oh, the machine's probably blown up. Thank you for sharing today.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing your wonder and your life experience to life for everyone to know themselves. Hello, Brad.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, and you're not sitting in the Rockies, as it were.
No.
You're in your living room somewhere.
Yeah, I'm in my bedroom. Yeah.
Hi there.
So much there.
Yeah.
I've been seeing so much living alone without a partner, and spending a lot of time alone. And so much that you said today is the one thing that really, well, there's several things, but one thing that really sparked was the recognition that the new, something totally new is just right there to come. That is like a true flow. And I've been experiencing these moments of, like, I went to a conference this week for 3 days around a lot of people, and there was this painful there were these times of pain and just feeling, well, knowing like a disconnection, and then times of just inspired sharing. And often when I was explaining the form to somebody is when it would just turn on, and you know, I was there and they responded. And so I've been noticing this, you know, like the mundane mediocre and how way of being, which is really getting painful. And this inspired new coming through and back and forth. And what I just got while you were speaking earlier is that, you know, old way of being, you know, whether it's habitual or patterned or just not, you know, in a very small space and not recognizing the immensity. What just sparked is what's so painful is that it's a cutoff from the new, from, I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but it just clicked that the pain...
Well, you're giving me plenty to speak of.
Okay.
Yeah. Like for instance, when you mentioned speaking to these people in that 3-day conference you were in,
yeah,
and there was openness, and then there was can't remember what you said, but there was this pain, the pain like it closed down, and there was pain. We can practice being openness in any experience, therefore being the consciousness that contains any experience, or we can go unconscious and just, as it were, head back to a past experience that gives us some comfort, that is a limiting comfort, but will not allow us to grow. And so therefore we're just shutting that pain out as if it belongs to someone else. But the pain belongs to us all. The pain is just simply a limited energetic image floating in the psyche that we all use to communicate to each other with, that is now well overdue. It's actually stamped on it. If you read it, it says due date expired, right?
Yeah.
So then we're developing the real love ability to remain conscious whilst pain seems to be between us. But you can turn that around. When there's pain between you and another, between you and whoever, a group of people, there's actually pain between us all, 8 million people, pain between us all. But when there's pain there, well, that pain is in the presence of consciousness. And if consciousness didn't relate to the pain as something that has no value, there's something we don't want, but consciousness just related to consciousness, then the pain would be meditated free. And suddenly there will be a vaster consciousness between you all, not simply because you got rid of the pain, but the pain was your very means to make conscious connection with each other. Do you follow what I mean? And so then images of self will be dissolved in your real being present in what was arising, which just happens to be something that we call pain, which is simply a limited chip, you know, a limited pattern that's come up to be met by all people in that group or on this planet in this moment. And so there's the transformation of a past image in the psyche of those people, in the psyche of this earth, that's being met from the place of profound unending consciousness. So suddenly the whole group field has taken on that old self-image, and in meeting consciousness to consciousness has transformed that image. Then we see each other's true face. So it's not like there was any interruption in this. There can be no interruption in your stream of consciousness. We place the interruption there by not owning the moment for connection, communication and transformation. We must be whole consciousness. I am consciousness with no beginning, no end. I am great awareness that is infinite. I contain all that ever takes place. So now we're not dodging the bullets. Do you see what I mean? We're not, some of you wouldn't like that, but okay. No, I can't change that. Now we're not dodging the experiences. What we're literally being is being. Being together in whatever arises transforms those old patterns. It's essential we begin to meet each other as consciousness, and therefore we can meet that pattern, and we really are capable of transforming it together. As we're capable as 8 billion human beings of transforming. First, communing, essential. Then being with life exactly as it is brings about a transformation, and life moves on. It's like we've moved something out of the system, some forms of ideas, some forms of past experiences that are clogging up our system, the psyche, clogging it up. And we've cleaned it out by meeting each other in the heart of whatever experience. And it moves on. But it must be conscious engagement, conscious experience together, and it can move on. So that's so wonderful.
Yeah. I had that exact experience this morning of a moment of we really are here together, that communion as a fact, as a direct experience, and then all these things that try to be safe with the person or make sure the right thing comes out of my mouth so that I don't get something I don't want coming back, those don't make any sense. You know, they were just there to be seen, but they don't make any sense in the knowing of that communion.
Well, that's the whole point. In the knowing of real communion, everything begins to make sense. Because communion makes sense. Sense takes the shape of the communion. That's a sensible communion. So suddenly we're in the enjoyment as beings of our sense realm that we are creating in expressions of our godhood, our unified consciousness. It's just happening. So then, to bring back this conversation in the context of this evening, of today, wherever you are, is that we are alchemists, we are self-transformers. We must allow both the near and the far to be our experience. That's how it gets integrated. It just gets integrated. And so what's far from you is actually very close to you. You see what I mean? So you bring everything together because your light is touching everything, far or near. And life's experiences are literally wisdom seekers. That life's experiences seek more wisdom. With the wisdom of the real you, to be that wisdom in this life of form, and literally have the direct experience of living life in form from your formless state of pure consciousness. That makes you a real human being. So already we're beginning to know of a greater power that we are, just by being profoundly present with the willingness to learn and grow and enjoy this ride of life from the willingness to learn and grow and commune and be together. Because we've always been together since the very big bang of this life. We've always been together. Our opportunity now is to truly be together and move in ways that we've never really moved on this life. Embrace everything as it is and bring transformation into this life. It's a holistic practice, a holistic engagement, an honouring of each other. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's beautiful to see you too.
We'll see you in Rome, will we?
I don't know if when I'll catch up with you, but definitely Tuscany.
Okay, we'll see you in Tuscany. Thank you for coming on, Brad.
Yeah, thank you, Bernie.
See you again.
All right.
And I'd like to thank you all for coming online. And I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. And I'm looking outside and the weather's not changed too much. The clouds are still gently moving. Everything is still. How did you find this today? You can practice the very thing that we're looking at here. Heart to heart. Your heart with the heart of God. Your heart as the heart of God to another individual. You can practice that. What that then does, it brings the face of your heart as mirrored by your body to the place of your life. Suddenly the heart of God through your heart is infinitely present here as your face of consciousness, and you've brought it to this place. In this manner, what we're discovering in this series of sharings, I have no idea how long we'll do this for. It will definitely move on into something else. I know that, as all life does. But this is what I want to endeavour to commune with you. It's heart to heart. It's essential we begin to know our heart in God's heart. It's a very easy thing that we just allow ourselves to know and be that stillness. And then we discover that we can move as that stillness, as this face, right in the place where we are. We can unfold ourselves, we can know ourselves, we can love each other, but we must love what this is really about for that to take place. Evolution on every level with no end. That's the life of God. Thank you for being with us today. Much love to you all. And we'll see you again shortly. Thank you. Goodbye.